Here's what's coming up on the Cold Popcast.
My thong showing, my booty poking, my pussy wet, I need a panty line. And I'm going to read a little bit more of this before I die.
I'm hurting because now you have a competition, not just for music, but for sexuality. You're ramping up like the need to be more sexual than the last artist.
And a lot of these like female rappers and even male rappers, just rappers in general, they're not actually living the life that they're talking about. Like, for all we know, Sukihana could have like an accounting degree or something like that.
What's poppin', everybody?
Welcome back to the Cold Popcast.
I'm Zoe.
And I'm Steve.
And get your hate mail ready, everyone, because we're going to be pushing a few buttons today.
So we're going to be talking about whether or not the music industry is breeding promiscuity amongst black women.
That's right.
All right. So basically, since its inception, hip-hop and rap music has had at least some level of violent or misogynistic messaging, yet there are more conscious rappers that often existed who sort of leveled the playing field. Nowadays, it feels like trashy female rap, it was more than just a unique niche that people step into. It's more so like the mainstream fandom. So most people are interested in actually seeing rappers like Sexyy Red, Sukihana, who objectify themselves. And effectively, this has made them the perfect product for large record labels that could care less about whether or not the messaging of their artists is actually like wholesome or helpful to the community.
Yeah. Do you think this is like they're consciously pushing like a certain a narrative, or they're trying to like actively push out this new like kind of more degenerate type music, or do you think it's just like a result of the market like demanding it?
I think that part of it is, it's a little bit of both. Obviously, the market demands it, but the market wouldn't be able to demand it as much if there weren't record labels that were pushing it out so much. I think taste is almost developed over time.
Okay.
I think people develop a taste by what they're exposed to. And if you're exposed to a lot of the same content, you're going to say, well, I want more of that now. If you don't have the other options on the table, then it's not going to be as easy for you to decide like, maybe I would rather listen to Common instead of Lil Wayne, because there's just less Common available. Lil Wayne had a new song every 2 days.
I agree. And I also think another part of that too is this, a lot of times people don't necessarily actively seek like the type of music they're interested in. I think a lot of their tastes develop like subconsciously from what they're exposed to, and then it's like that becomes a new taste. So I think, like you were saying, if you have a medium that like pushes one type of music that's like, seemingly the only thing available at the time, that's the only thing people are going to feel they have as an option to like want.
Right.
And
especially,
I think, that artificially creates that demand.
Especially when it comes to like, the radio. People that listen to the radio still.
Yeah.
It's like you're not choosing what music you're listening to. You're just consuming whatever they put out in front of you.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I don't I don't Bluetooth my car. I just put on the radio, because I don't know. I'm boring like that. I just need to drive, but I'll have the radio on, and I just get disgusted. Well, it's not even disgusted. Just like, I don't know. They play like literally the bare bones most type of music. Like, I don't know, anything that just immediately activates your dopamine receptors without having any depth.
Yeah, it's just to get you through the drive. It's not to like, give you any sort of like motivation or anything like that. It's just like, you got to get through your drive.
Yeah, like, hey, we know you're just trying to get through your day, buddy. Here, let's put this like elevator music.
To Pound Town. So actually, I took this question to Facebook and asked a couple of different people, and there were a few different types of responses. Some people agreed that they think that the music industry is pushing more degenerate sort of cultural themes throughout the music created by black rappers, or female rappers rather. So one of them said, so are you suggesting that rap was mostly wholesome until Nicki emerged? Because the way I phrased the question was basically like, I asked the question of the topic of the episode, and then can we blame Nicki Minaj for this?
Can we blame Nicki?
Yeah, can we blame Nicki for that, for what's happened to the female rap industry? And people were sort of like on the fence. They're like, well, you can't really blame Nicki Minaj for it because like rappers like Trina existed.
Yeah.
Someone even said this comment is Trina erasure. Like,
what's Trina? Is Trina erasure her name, or is erasure a
no,
different word?
Trina erasure is a word. It's like you're erasing her from history because she was a filthy artist. She was a filthy female artist from like the early 2000s.
I see.
Yeah, she was rapping about her booty hole being brown back in the day. People don't give her that credit though.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone else said sales are run by demand, not supply. So there's a demand for it. That's why it's being created. That's what this person is saying. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that the demand is being artificially sort of bolstered.
I think like it seems like I feel like it's more like artificially generated demand, just because like I said, if that's the only thing, it's like if I own a toy store, but the only toys I put on the shelf are Legos, and I keep like, you know, all the Hasbro stuff in the back. You know, I'm not really creating. It's not because the market wants it. They just think all I have are Legos.
Right.
True.
You know.
And if it's only Legos on the shelves, I'm telling you, like kids, all the popular kids are gonna go buy the Legos, and then the other kids are gonna be like, "Oh, I want Legos too now."
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, it's not like they actually want it; it's simulated. It's just like, oh well, now because they have it, I want it too.
I'm pretty sure that's how fashion works, where
Yeah.
it's like, you know, you just make a lot of celebrities wear one type of like clothing, and everyone thinks like, well, I guess that's what we got to wear now.
Yeah, no one's gonna convince me that blue jean overalls look good. But
Yo.
you put a celebrity in them, and then everyone's wearing them.
I swear to God, you know that thing with like the big red boots, that shoes
Yeah,
that people
those
wear?
big
I
cartoony
guarantee you,
boots.
there's probably a couple people out there actually wearing that, and I swear to God, if they didn't see like fashion runway models, celebrities putting that on, no person would have ever thought to buy that.
Right.
You
Yeah,
ever
they're
seen
just
those in person?
Not in person, just on
seen them in
like
person?
just
Yeah,
on like
I've seen them in
Instagram and
person.
stuff.
I
For real,
seen
you've
them on
actually
the stripper, yeah.
On the
In
stripper.
Atlanta.
Oh, that's gotta be
that's hilarious.
hilarious.
There was
Wow,
a
that actually
stripper in
leads into-
Atlanta that had them on.
that actually leads into this next comment that someone made on the post. They said, definitely 100% to degrade society and push people towards bad behavior. I think those boots existed to degrade society. All right,
Yeah.
just to degrade
Art,
fashion.
bro. That's art. That's fashion, bro.
Yeah.
You know what? Basically to address, did Nicki start this? I don't think Nicki started. I do think that music, kind of that has always been a part of music. Like no matter how far back you go,
70s,
like yeah, sexualization, 70s. I mean, even in the early like eras of rap. I mean, even before Nicki, you had Lil' Kim. You know, she was like provocative. She wasn't necessarily like as sexual as what you see today, but you know, she still was kind of like one of the like leading that charge towards like, I'm not just selling my music, I'm selling like, you know, kind of like an attitude, I'm selling like a little bit of sexuality, promiscuity. It was like that, and then it just kind of like progressed from there, where it became more and more. Then you had a Nicki, then you had a Cardi B, and now it's like, it's a lot of times, like I feel like with Nicki, it was still about the music, but the additive was the fact that she was like, you know, this Barbie doll. But now with like Sexyy Red, I mean, it's in the name, sexy. Like it seems like I'm a sex symbol first and a musician later.
And that actually, you know, we should actually read some of the Sexyy Red lyrics, just so you guys, if you haven't actually, you know, really paid close attention, I'm sure you've heard some of these songs. This is Hood Rats, one of Sexyy Red and Sukihana's recent songs. So the lyrics go, throw that ass, you know you a hoe, up and down that booty gon' go. I'm twerking on your baby daddy, he finna lick my booty hole. I'm looking sexy, I'm looking fine. No broke boys can waste my time. My thong showing, my booty poking. My pussy wet, I need a panty line. And I'm gonna read a little bit more of this before I die.
I'm hurting.
Ghetto bitch, so you know it's wet. I never heard that my coochie whack. I ride dick and oh my God. Nobody cut any of this.
Yeah.
All right?
And someone cut this out of context. Just clip this.
You wouldn't even know what to do with that. I'm finna shake this ass because my bills is due. And I think that's, you know, I got that good cat. Like that right there is like, it's shameless. Like that last part especially. I'm finna shake this ass because my bills is due. Like you just gonna say that in a song?
Yeah.
That's like
That's hilarious.
It's so interesting because it's like, it kind of has like that female empowerment kind of tone to it.
Yeah.
But also considered to be like, I guess you could say like female drill rap.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably like, maybe it hypes them up, you know?
I guess
Maybe
so.
it
I'm
excites
finna get my
them
bills paid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he gonna do this. And maybe it fills them with a lot of confidence. So that's why it's a big cultural, you know,
I think the whole
thing right now.
Yeah, I think the sex liberation thing plays a part, because I feel like sexual liberation, or like that freedom of sexual expression, has become like associated with like female empowerment. So like when they're trying to sing songs that are like, you know, supposed to bolster like female empowerment, it innately makes it like extremely sexual. And I think it's just led to this point now to where it's just like, you know, just shameless behavior essentially. Because I'm just like, you know, I'm gonna shake it, you know, when my bills are due. It's like that. I think that's like a next level.
I think it's funny how like female empowerment just became like having loose morals.
Yeah.
Like I'm so powerful because I can do whatever I want.
You know what's
and
funny?
it just so happens to serve men when you do it.
Yeah, and you know, it's just the fact that, that's why I'm like, it's bordering on just complete ratchetness, because even in one of her music videos, like they had like, it was basic, a lot of her songs just kind of revolve around just doing like basically just hood rat crap.
Yeah.
And like one of her videos, like they were saying the same type of thing, where just being hypersexual, hyper like just disrespectful. And she had like a baby. She like holding a baby on her the whole time. like I think it was their actual kid, I believe. But it's like I'm trying to remember. I think it wasn't Sexyy Red. It was actually I think Sukihana. And it's like the same thing. Like they sing about sex, and they have no problem having like a baby with them. Talk about how they're gonna get pregnant. How they want to smash the president. Like that's the only thing they bring him into the song for. It's about how she'll go down on him. It's just it's like when did we lose? When did it only become about that? That's my thing.
I don't know, man. But apparently back during the hip hop era in the mid '80s. It was actually all about like battle rap. Like even women would engage in sort of like the battle rap thing.
Yeah, like
and it was about
Queen
like
Latifah
actually rhyming.
Yeah, actual lyrics mattered.
Yeah, when the
Rhymes.
content wasn't meant to just degrade. And I think degrade is like the best word because kind of like you guys were saying earlier in terms of like it started with like Lil Kim, right? And Lil Kim was like somewhat classy, right? And then it degrades a little bit, and then Nicki Minaj comes out, and she's like a Barbie doll, but she's also like showing off her ass at all times. So that's a little bit more degradation, and then give it 10, 15 years, and here we are now. We're, shaking our ass to get our rent paid.
They take it more extreme and more extreme because that's what's seen as better. Like if you want to get more attention, you get crazier, or you go harder than the next person, so you get crazier.
Yeah, I think it like the sexuality part created a market for sex in music, and like with anything, it just became more and more competitive. So it's like as we go on, it's like any woman that enters the industry now is not just competing to be the best musician.
You got to innovate. You need to take off more clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like with the Queen Latifah, like the MC era of like battle rapping and stuff. Before it'd be like if you're a woman coming on the scene, you're competing with men. And you got to be a better rapper than them, and you got to compete. But it's like the sexuality aspect created a market just for the women. So it's like I can be in music, but I could not necessarily be a part of that, like the competitive market, because I'm also selling something that only I can give, which is sex. So then other women came in, and now they have to compete on that same level. And because now you have a competition, not just for music, but for sexuality, you're ramping up like the need to be more sexual than the last artist.
And the community is what is harmed the most throughout the entire thing, I think
so.
What do you guys think about that? I think it damages the community. You got something, Roosevelt?
I mean, I feel like the music on both sides, whether it's a male rapper or a female, you feel me? It's being degraded on both ends. You know what I'm saying? There's a level of deterioration when you look at the beginning. You feel me? You look at today, like I feel like it's on both sides, basically.
I agree with the male rappers also having like degradation because when you really think about it, it's like the women just saw what the men were doing to get rich and then did the exact same thing.
Yeah, and like I think they organically created like their own market, and like I said, they did the same thing. And I'm not saying only women are what the women are doing in music is like not good for the black community, because I feel like there's aspects of what the men do that I think is also not good for society, but because we're focusing on women, I think the promiscuity is it's ramping up it's normalizing the idea of promiscuity for us, and I think it's going to have an adverse or negative effect on like young black women as they grow up.
I think promiscuity is about equal to drugs and like future rap basically, like mumble rap general, like drug this, drug that. Like men rap about like drugs and gang violence for the most part, and then women rap about their coochies being colorful and stuff.
Yeah, and I think an overindulgence in it opens you. It's like drugs, where it opens you up to a lot of like bad decisions that could be made down the line. I think a woman that normalizes herself is like, okay, it's normal to present myself overly sexualized. Kind of detaches herself from the reality that like when you do that, you're basically presenting yourself in the world as like I'm a sex image or something like that, or I should my only value that I offer is sex, and understanding that like not necessarily that means you deserve bad things to happen to you, but like you're gonna put yourself in a lot of positions to where they can. And you're going to open the door for it to happen. So you're going to have a lot of men that want to sexualize you. You're going to have a lot of men that only give you certain attention for certain things. And then enough of that happens to where it's going to psychologically warp her own view of what she's useful for, what her value is, and what route in life she should take. And I think a lot of times it's going to lead a lot of black women to, pretty much pursuing like avenues that are like more like it's going to lead them to more avenues where they're just going to be using their bodies or like being more sexual or maybe getting involved in porn or OnlyFans.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think it's like you said, it's it's a really big paradigm shift because damn, what did I say? I forgot my point, but it was essentially around the same thing. What was the last thing you just said?
Basically, like this over-sexualization is going to lead women to pursue avenues because their perceived value is that I'm only good, or the only way I'm really valued is when I'm involved in sexualized things.
Okay, yeah, I remember now. Okay. So because the music is so influential, I mean, like my brother, for example, he listens to a lot of music, and that stuff really influences him. He starts to think in those certain ways. You know, he starts to value getting high or whatever, drugs, yada, yada, yada. But it's like that. So women can easily be influenced by that to become more promiscuous, like you said.
Yeah.
So.
And, women are statistically, like, they're the most influenced by social media. And and kids in general, like, people, I think, want to underestimate, like, oh, just because I'm doing this or just because I'm watching this all the time doesn't mean I'm going to do it, which is true.
That's, I mean, but is it? Like, is it true though? Sorry to cut you off, but when you consume something, when you like watch something, listen to something, when you engage in doing something, it has like a small effect at the very least on like what you're going to do in the future.
No, it does.
If you're listening to music that's about, drugs and stuff, eventually like it's going to sort of tap into you. And you're going to say, like, that sounds kind of fun. And then you might try it out. Right. Or at least I think so.
It affects the culture, especially in, like, schools.
I wouldn't say
Kids love drugs.
Well, if it's glamorized, I'm saying, like, from the perspective of a kid. If you're an adult and you have, like, a fully fledged personality and you're able to make, like, conscious decisions on your own, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. You won't probably give in to temptation like that.
But if it's your culture, especially as, like, kids, high schoolers, my brother just came out of high school. That's all they do.
Yeah.
They love
Everyone wants to do it.
I think it's like discernment, because you can watch a lot of things. I think when it becomes a problem is when you have something that's like normalized and it has no perceived ramifications to doing it. So it's like you see people using drugs, but if you're taught all your life that drugs are bad and that drugs will kill you, it's like you can understand like everyone does it, but you would not do it because you have your own discernment to say like, well, everyone's doing it, but I also know that like it'll kill me, so I don't want to do it. But then it's like or even video games, like you play violent video games and stuff like that. You can run people over in GTA and stuff, but you're not going to do it in real life because there are consequences. I think with promiscuity, I think the thing that's making it more dangerous is the fact that it's not only something that's becoming normalized, but it's also being viewed in a way to where it's not a negative anymore.
Right.
Before
right.
they
I
used
think
to,
that's the biggest
yeah,
thing.
they used to preach it as like, people strip. Like, people are stripping, girls dress promiscuous, people have sex, but they discourage it and say like, you don't want to do that.
Right,
It leads you to like avoid and not being happy. People won't respect you. Nowadays, the idea is like, no, you can be a stripper, get the bag and get the man. You can
be on OnlyFans.
Exactly. You can like sell sexuality and you're still an empowered woman. So when you sell that, saying that you can do this and good things will happen, not only do you normalize that as a prospect now, but now it's more viable because you're like, well, why wouldn't I do that? All these things seem good.
And it's funny because a lot of these like female rappers and even male rappers, just rappers in general, they're not actually living the life that they're talking about. Like for all we know, Sukihana could have like an accounting degree or something. Like basically like based on just like how it usually goes. Like, Future rapping about drugs and alcohol all the time doesn't do drugs or alcohol very regularly. 50 Cent, back when when 50 Cent was at his prime, when he was rapping about drugs and alcohol and all that stuff, he was sober. Yeah. He was sober that whole time.
He don't even smoke. 50 don't smoke or drink.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's completely sober. Yet he's talking about doing all these different things and convincing, young, impressionable black people to actually engage in doing that stuff too. So it's like, but people don't talk about that because it's like, well, 50 that nigga.
But you know what's actually funny? You brought that up because my brother, he was a huge 50 Cent fan. I'm not even joking. Like,
really?
cause he, like back in the day, he not only watched the movies, but he used to have like the 50 Cent video games where he
Blood
would
on the Sand.
Yeah, like 50 Cent, and they're like literally just going into the hood and blowing dudes down with shotguns. Like 50 Cent was like going against the government and stuff. This was in helicopters, and it's just funny because like if you don't know the life these guys live, like my only impression, because I didn't keep up with 50 Cent, but I was truly under the impression like 50 Cent was like the hardest dude in the city. Like he's actually out here with AKs just gunning people down.
This is a real life story.
Yeah, and then you find out like he doesn't even drink. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, man.
I mean, shit. You know what? Never mind.
Man, we just have such a huge like cultural influence problem when it comes to these negative behaviors. Like you have kids on TikTok doing trends where they're just hijacking cars and stealing cars, teach people how to steal the cars, and they're just stealing cars now. Like kids are doing it like it's nothing.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy how like it pays so well for you to be someone who's like a bad influence on others. Like, it just seems like that's the case. Like if you're a bad influence, culture and social media companies and record labels and Hollywood and all these different things will probably pay you, just to be a bad influence.
I agree. Yeah. I would say in my own closing, I guess, I think overall, any type of media is a reflection of the type of culture that you have around you. So I think if you have a lot of promiscuity in the culture and stuff like that, then that kind of shows that that's what, or if you have a lot of promiscuity in media, that shows like that's the kind of culture that you have. Mm-hmm. Same thing in America. Like if you generalize like the West, they had a survey where they said like, what kids want to grow up to be. And a lot of them want to be influencers. Like that's like the number one thing they want to be. And I think even when I was growing up in like black communities, only thing that a lot of black kids think they can be are either athletes or entertainers. And I think, like I said, that's reflective as like what we value. So I think people need to understand that your media is always going to have an effect on like the people who consume it. And it's just about mediating how you frame that. So it's like, it's one thing to have it as something that's entertainment, but do the people who are watching understand like that's just what it is? Like you shouldn't live this life, or this isn't necessarily good for you. Because I think that's going to be important in discerning, are you sending out the right messages? But overall, I do think the promiscuity is a problem in the music industry, and is going to lead to a lot of issues in the black community if it doesn't, if we don't have anything to kind of curb or like set us on the right path to realize like this isn't the life you want to live. This is just entertainment.
Right. Well said. Well said.
Yeah, well said. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Any platform where you can find video or audio. You can find us on social media at The Cold Popcast. And thank you for watching. We got to pop out of here.
All right, everyone. Peace.